Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm coming on a little bit early today version here. Um, because, things are starting to escalate, divert attention from what's really going on. And you see that in LA. You see that in LA and how it's just covered the news cycle. And so we felt like it was necessary to come on, maybe start our two times a day live stream because we don't see this as anything. This is the playbook. This is a playbook they used in 2019, in 2020. I would say that it's just just a repeat, but they have to use how they can manipulate the people, right? And they use innocent people, or people that don't want to go back to Mexico or Palestine or wherever they came from. They don't want to go back, and they have reasons why they don't want to go back. And it's very understandable. And then they'll use them. They've turned them into criminals. They've groomed them. They've groomed them into even being violent now, right? And we see that. And this is the same playbook from El Paso, where tell me if we're wrong. But we're going to make our argument of why this is a diversion again, a bloody diversion, a very economically destructive diversion, just like the pandemic was just worldwide, okay, um, diversion, a worldwide diversion. Yes. Did people get hurt? Yes, they did. They absolutely got hurt. But was the handling of that, was the reporting on that misleading and also um, uh, uh, in the tone to scare the hell out of everybody so that the economy worldwide could be affected and a diversion from uh, the major crimes that were occurring, the um, this open border problem that made so many victims. So many are victims, and now some of them are even becoming, joining the criminal way, the criminal way. St. Augustine. Let me make sure that I'm on here. St. Augustine. Let me make sure that you can hear me. Okay. Border. Yep. Okay. Um, So, St. Augustine, this is, of course, 1,773 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his Fort Bliss barracks room, and they took his life because he was a whistleblower. He was a whistleblower on Fort Bliss, and he lost his life on Fort Bliss in the line of duty, And there's been a huge, I wouldn't even call it a cover up. I would call it a mutiny, because the system was used, um, the system that had been infiltrated, that had been taken over, or our institutions taken over, maybe not totally, but enough to where they could obstruct justice, intimidate witnesses, retaliate against whistleblowers, tamper with evidence, and absolutely, we had even the Interpol was a mockery of Dallas Hart's face, superimposed on Richards to give to the Interpol. And, the Interpol finally caught on and took that down. Our home was searched without a warrant. That was to intimidate. They knew that we were serious about about coming to El Paso. That was right before we came to El Paso to rally because we were getting the approvals from the city to hold the rallies. So they knew that we were coming to have the rallies to speak to soldiers and to El Pasoans to get answers for our son. And anytime you're speaking to people, you're getting information. You're getting information about the criminal trafficking. You're getting information about the ongoing investigations and audits that President Trump's first administration was doing, just like now. And you're getting information about Richard being a whistleblower. They did not want that out at all. They absolutely obstructed that as much as they could. But it's the rallies, him being forcibly removed, the rallies of how the cartel was so infiltrated. And And so, of course, you're getting all of this information and you have to then vet it, right? You have to vet it. It takes a lot of time. An investigation by a family takes a long time. So you have to collect the information. You have to identify the crimes, the criminals, and then you have to document it all, and then you have to file it. You have to file it. And as we're doing that, more and more information, day by day, breaking news, was coming out. The whole thing with Nidal Baem, the fake dog and pony show of the staged um, task force find Richard Halliday, where the command were out of uniform in the headquarters, conducting a task force with 15 plus agencies there: ATF, Homeland Security, CBP, El Paso Police, military, government, military. Mexican government, Mexican military, and on, 15 plus, FBI and CID, and where we absolutely knew that there were already tampering and there were already leaks by none other, and we didn't know at the time who it was, but it was none other than Richard's first sergeant's family. So, and it just went on and on every day, breaking news, more information. Um, and it just took a lot of time. Even in January of 2022, the really big news that Judge Roger Rodriguez became the whistleblower in Richard's case. Um, in his capacity as a judge, but you know what? He was also he's the former coordinator for anti-terrorism and homeland security programs on Fort Bliss. And so he absolutely, um, and we didn't even know that because he didn't introduce himself to us in 2022 as that. He introduced himself as a whistleblower in Richard's case, as Judge Roger Rodriguez, the whistleblower in Richard's case, that identified the prime suspects in Richard's murder case, that identified those prime suspects. Not only were they the prime suspects in the murder case, but that they were interfering with Richard's investigation. They were tampering with evidence. They were leaking information. And that wasn't a shock to us because after 2 years of investigation, about a year and a half, right? A year and a half of investigation, we had already filed motions that there were filed reports that there was tampering, that there was something wrong, that the FBI wasn't looking after this case like they should. And so, therefore, we petitioned the Department of Justice to oversee the El Paso FBI to look at this case because we knew there was tampering and also leaks, and that there was a failure of the institutions that clearly were working for a foreign and domestic enemy to hide what they did to Richard Halliday, what they did to the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier. That was very clear to us then. And so when Judge Roger Rodriguez came out, identified himself to us that he had filed his whistleblower report, we, because we had been targeted and attacked by so many of these agents, these false agents or enemy agents, where they're impersonating veterans groups, and they're impersonating that they care, that they, they're all impersonators, right? And they want to know your information. They want to know, and we absolutely did not understand that was going on until after a few times, until the results of what they said they were going to do and what they actually did. Just like Angela Kachurga, who had no intention, and Bob Moore had no intention of really covering this case, that they never reported that Richard was a whistleblower, right? That he was a whistleblower before he was murdered. Because if they would have done that, if they would have done, say that the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday, that was not hard to find out. That he had made CPS complaints, right? This is child trafficking. This is criminal trafficking that had infiltrated our military installation. And they didn't report on it. And that could have kept him alive. That could have absolutely kept him alive. And then to find out that these very institutions in the media institutions, that they were family members connected to the very foreign agents and foreign infiltration, cartel connected infiltration into our institutions, then you know that they were part of it from the very beginning. They were part of targeting Richard, the retaliation against Richard, the murder of Richard, and then the disposal of his remains, and the lack of contacting our family. We had to contact El Paso. We had to contact Fort Bliss. They never contacted us until after we contacted them. And then they sent their agents to collect information from us, to impersonate us, to target us, to smear Richard in the media, so that the vast public would get a false perception of who Richard is, and his hero, absolutely being a hero, and his whistleblower status, his in the line of duty death, which they knew at that time already. They already had his remains. We know that because in October 2020, very connected to Bob Moore, to the chain of command on Fort Bliss, to the El Paso ISD chief of police, to the Texas Ranger that was assigned to our case, Nidal Baem, to the Hart family, to um, the arms deals, and that's Nidal Baem, to the car's business there. And Nidal Baem had said that Richard was dead, that the FBI had found Richard's remains in Juarez. And by saying they were looking in 5 places for his remains, corroborated the rest of our evidence that Richard had been dismembered to hide his remains. And this is corroborated also by what they did to Vanessa Guillen, right? What they did to Vanessa Guillen to try to burn her, and they were unsuccessful because God had a different plan, and they had buried her in one location, you see. And um, that brought a lot of scrutiny to them. And so that's why you had Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe saying, we cannot have another Guillen situation, meaning finding her remains, her dismembered, burnt remains, her bludgeoned, dismembered, burnt remains in a foxhole covered with lime, covered with concrete, covered with dirt. They thought that they could absolutely hide her remains, and they did, you know, a very sophisticated job trying to do that. But God had a different plan. The animals still could sense that there were remains there, and they started digging. And line workers saw those, were alerted by these animals digging, and that's how they found her remains. And so with Richard, that was in July of 2020. Well, the very end of, see, she went missing in April. In between the end of April and the very beginning of July, all of this occurred. And Richard's being forcibly removed um, and losing his life, and them trying to get rid of the evidence, uh, e.g., his remains. They, uh, uh, used several different burial areas and made it very, very difficult. And yet, they did find parts of his remains. Okay, there was uh, an alert. A Borstar had an alert on human remains. This information was buried. We had to find it. It takes a lot of time to read through everything, and I'm sure there's things that we still have missed, but we have enough. We have enough, and we'll take even more. We'll take as much. We haven't stopped. We're still searching. But we have enough to tell you that this is a failed city, a failed government there in the hands of foreign and domestic enemies in El Paso that has infiltrated onto our military installation, Fort Bliss. So now I know that the very first stop that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, made when President Trump took office in January 20th, 2025, and 4 days later, uh, January 24th, 2025, he designated Richard's death as in the line of duty, confirming all the other evidence that we have that Richard was murdered in the line of duty on Fort Bliss. And there is no argument to that because it is backed by hard evidence. It's backed by, not me pulling anything out of the air, but almost 5 years of investigative work from our family and friends that have been wanting wanting justice for Richard, wanting justice for Richard, and so. And they want his remains. Just we want his remains, right? Um, because yeah, it's the right thing. It's the right thing. And this really leads into what is going on. And what I wanted to start out with, you have the city of God or you have the city of man. And you see this in LA right now. It's the city of man. Man's will is full of destruction and harming the economy, not even thinking about other people, not thinking about the children, not thinking about businesses, not thinking about families that have mortgages to pay, that have car payments to pay, that have spent their lives building their businesses, and now they can't even drive to their businesses. It's the same thing with what happened in 2020. It is just a city of man where they don't even care about other people's lives, and they absolutely are grand theft larceny right now. They're starting to break into businesses and steal at will, and you have the breakdown of the city, right? You have the breakdown of the institutions. You have false narratives coming from these imposter leaders that are not leaders at all. They do not care about the vast population, and I understand that a huge part of that population is coming from the failed narco state of Mexico. Mexico is a failed narco state. The cartel control a huge swath of Mexico. That's not me saying it. That's all these reports, the DHS reports, the port reports, where they are absolutely entrapped in the cartel and CCP. And there's a battle going. There's so many deaths. Oh my gosh, there's so many deaths going on in the city of man. That is the beautiful country of Mexico. That is the city of man, right? And this all arguments of how to solve this, right? Every argument of how to solve this failed, this takeover of our institutions and them putting them absolutely in failure, right? In order to grand theft larceny, a band of robbers to still at will, still land at will, still homes at will, still businesses at will, still sovereignty at will, still liberty at will, still justice at will. They absolutely are the city of man. And Augustine warned us about this. And the only solution is the city of God, right? The city of God. That's the only solution. What was happening in Europe at the time, what was happening um, with the fall of Rome, you had the senators in Rome just sitting there like statues while the band of robbers came in and just slit their throats because they just did not have an answer for their failed state. And Augustine gives us the answers to this failed state. And you see that Los Angeles, even with all of the illegal migrants, okay, that are coming from these other failed states, right? They're coming in and they just feel like, okay, we'll be imperialistic. They don't even realize they're being imperialistic, but they're like, oh, we're Mexico, and they're thinking their old way of Mexico, and we're going to turn California into Mexico or Texas into Mexico. Well, wait a minute. It's a failed state, and Mexico is the city of man. So you just want to turn California into the city of man? You just want to turn Texas into the city of man? By destroying businesses, by blocking roads, by being violent, burning vehicles, um, uh, you know, disrespecting institutions. It's just, it is the most insane. The city of man is so insane, and they're, instead of being grateful and humble and all of the seven virtues that God teaches us in the city of God, to, this situation wouldn't even be there for them if they were acting as in the city of God, because that's where mercy and grace comes in, right? But they are wanting to destroy and yet get benefits. They are wanting to hurt and yet demand benefits, demand money, demand housing, demand healthcare, demand all of this stuff while they are actually destroying the businesses that would give them that, right? Destroying the families that would give them that. Right? Americans are the most giving. That's why they can do this here. We are so giving. We're so accepting to so many cultures. We're just, but yet this 13 million I heard of illegal migrants coming in, there's a huge, and you only need 10% of them, right? 10% that have gone to the dark side. 10% that goes to the dark side, that's what, 1.3 million. You just need 1.3 million to go to the dark side to do really huge damage, really huge damage. And so you in Mexico right now, you have security, police, whatever. They're all they're all quitting or going over to the cartel side just to live. They're quitting. And that's why you have President Schaumbaum over there, who's not really the president of anything, right? She's not the president of anything because Mexico's a failed state. She's saying, oh, yeah, go for it, the destruction. We have the destruction here in Mexico, our beautiful ancient country. Our beautiful ancient Mexico City is it's just amazing, absolutely amazing ancient city with so much to offer, and yet they are instituting the city of man for its destruction because to um they don't want the city of God, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, because that's the answer to it all. And you see that in John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, where he lays it all out, how to build the city of God, right? You have one Christian father after the other building upon building upon each other. And you have then the Institutes of Biblical Law by R.J. Rushdoony, who absolutely shows you how to build a very healthy family, how to build a healthy family, and how to build the city of God in our communities, And if every community does that, then we have this beautiful country. And that beautiful country then is peaceful and respecting of our land, of our people, of our businesses. And yet, we have this city of man that is just a band of robbers, destroyers and robbers, thieves and thugs and thieves that exploit women, that exploit children, that exploit men, that exploit definitions. They don't even know how to define anything. And this is what we're seeing. And this is why this is a diversion. This whole thing is a diversion for the city of man. This is my opinion. I'm allowed to have my opinion. And this is why we are wanting to put all of our energy into what is right without fear, to get justice for our son, to have a future for our country. We have a beautiful Constitution. What is the Constitution even built upon? It's built upon biblical law, the city of God. It's built upon the city of God. Without the city of God, the Constitution cannot work properly. That's why you see the justice system in shambles. That's why you see the takeover of the institutions to really, it's a war against the city of God. The Constitution of the United States, the Texas Constitution that gives people rights but demands respect for property, makes it illegal to do what is going on right now in LA, what is going on in El Paso. It is illegal what is going on in El Paso. It is illegal what's going on in LA. But you see, they don't have a law structure. They are living in the city of man. They don't care. That's why they act with impunity. What are they acting in impunity with? To the law of God, to the city of God, to moral law, to the Constitution, to the Texas Constitution. That's why you see this is a rebellion against the city of God. And we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And, do we want to see these migrants be, uh, be groomed into the city of man? Where they're destroying, where they're breaking windows, where they're throwing stones at a car, hurting people, letting traffickers operate with impunity, letting substances that hurt us flow into our country to put us in some kind of other world so that we're not participating and understanding what's at stake here, just putting us in a dream world of a Vanity Fair. I mean, let's they're just offering us this city of man that's a Vanity Fair. That is the way they compromise. They compromise you by um, by putting stumbling blocks in your life so that you're on video doing things that are not really good, that are illegal, that could put you in jail. And by the city of God, they put who they want in jail when they want, and who they don't want, they let them go with impunity. It's very clear. And so, they want to control you with guilt. They want to control even the migrants with guilt or with pride or with whatever seven of the vices: gluttony, pride, whatever. They use those to groom and to bring over, to form uh, their thoughts and to bring them over, to groom them into the city of man, to make them destroy and, wave the flag of whatever country that is a failed state. Um, and and they don't even understand why, and they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back. They want to be here. Um, and but yet they want everything paid for while they're destroying whatever it takes to pay for it. It's uh, it's so insane, and the answer to it are the virtues. That's how we get through the Vanity Fair. That's how we get through the city of man, is to to bring in the city of God. It's a spiritual warfare. And bringing in the city of God, of course, is every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God. Of course, it's the sacraments, bringing in marriage again, bringing in ordination, meaning that you have to sign your anti-bribe line and do it right if you want to take a position. You need to be duly elected. That you have to follow the Ten Commandments, like is stated in that's the bread and the wine, is every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. That's the city of God right there. And those are blessings, those are gifts from God. Baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, meaning you are rejecting the city of man. You're rejecting the devil. You're rejecting the vices. That's what the baptism means. And confirmation, to confirm it, to be mature, to put on your full armor of God and defend the city of God. So this is what is the answer, I believe, to these distractions of violence. And they are, they're very weak. And I want to make that very, very clear. They are no impediment to God and his kingdom. It is us seeing it. It's for us to see to understand the options: the city of man or the city of God. This is our choice. What's happening, God can solve in like a snap. But because his love is so high, so wide, far reaching, he shows us our option so that he can be in communion with those who choose the city of God. It's very clear. Why he is showing us this, so that we can have a love too, a love for him and his sovereignty. The Constitution doesn't even mention sovereignty, because sovereignty belongs to God alone. To God alone. And so we just really wanted to put this out, why this is such a diversion from what's happening at the front door of the United States, El Paso, Texas. And you see that Major General Taylor is just lost in the city of man. There's a mutiny, and this is the whole theme of this. The city of man is a mutiny against the United States. President Trump, and don't even have to say Trump, the presidency of the United States, who is duly elected, the ordination. He was elected, huge majority. And so this is a mutiny against the authority of the United States, the God-given authority of the United States, that is defending the Constitution of the United States. We're $37 trillion in debt. This is going, we have 13 million illegal migrants that were brought into this country in 4 years, that are absolutely targeted. People talk about the American people being targeted. These illegals, it's like being in the barracks for Richard. He had no choice, right? These people were given all kinds of promises. Now they are compromised because they're illegal. Now ICE needs to say, you need to go. You need to go to uncompromise yourself, right? And a lot of them have become criminals. A lot of them were criminals coming over. And so they need to be arrested because they've committed crimes beyond being illegal. Like Leilani Hart. Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal, and her family, she confessed to the worst type of crimes against children, and even having files of the crimes that they committed against children, or, well, I should say, of other crimes being committed against children. So she confessed to all of these crimes. She needs to be arrested. That's just the bottom line. She needs to be arrested. There needs to be a huge investigation into Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader, who is the suspect in Richard's murder case, the prime suspect in Richard's murder case. Right? So you have these illegals that come over that have just become total criminals. But there is a huge group of them that need to leave, and then they can apply to come in legally, and then they're not compromised. Then they're not so easily targeted by this city of God, the city of man, right? The city of man that wants to control them and make them into, violent criminals. It's a trap. It's a trap for people. They're being used. And, and Americans see that. And Americans are absolutely pro-immigration, pro-legal immigration. But they don't want that this whole 13 million immigrants are a Trojan horse for the 10% of them that are absolutely coming in to uh, infiltrate and be violent and be criminal and destroy our economy, destroy the land, destroy our institutions. So they need to leave. They need to leave and reapply to come back legally. That's the answer. So that they can be vetted. And to leave is very difficult because they're leaving to go back to failed states, to a lot of danger. To a lot, but that's it's the only solution. And you see this all over where they've did this playbook. Now you can comment and tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me the your opinion on it. But how are we going to get justice for Richard when we have things like L.A. going on, when we have things like El Paso going on? I mean, we don't even have a legitimate DA in El Paso. We don't even have legitimate magistrate judges in El Paso. We have a corrupt federal courthouse in El Paso. We have a illegal, um, unqualified chief medical examiner in El Paso. This is cartel connected, uh, just the city of man. And, how do you get justice when you have all of this evidence? And how do you let it go when you see that more and more individuals are being targeted and that this is a takeover of a beautiful ancient city called El Paso? And now they're in LA, you know, trying to totally destroy, even after the fires, they're trying to destroy the economy even more. But yet they demand to have all of these freebies. And I can tell you that Americans like my family, being an immigrant family, my family is totally an immigrant family. They worked with their hands too for this country. They had to do things that weren't so nice either. My grandfather was 3 years in an intern camp for being German during World War II. And he never was bitter about that. He was totally Americana, totally MAGA. He wanted to stay in this country. But he did everything legally and respected the institutions. And he didn't hurt people's businesses and throw rocks. And oh my gosh, no way. He read the Psalms every morning. He read the Psalms every morning. So the answer to this mutiny, and it is a mutiny, you see this with the leadership not doing what they're supposed to be doing and getting paid by taxpayer money, and they're not doing it. And you see it in the military, like with General Taylor, like with General Bernabe, like with General Eisenhower, like with they're all still in. They're all still active duty, and they are like Matlock. I think he's maybe still in. They're absolutely treasonous and impotent because of it, as far as um, doing their duty goes. So, yeah, I just wanted to come on. Thank you so much. And we will be back tonight. We'll be back on tonight at our normal time. And we just really, this media thing, this whole media thing is absolutely, they are part of the city of man doing this in LA and in El Paso. The media is part of the diversion, part of the crime. Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, of El Paso Community Foundation, and his wife, Kathleen Gannett of KTEP, which is NPR, was not covering the city of man. They are part of the development of it and the orchestration of it and the crime itself. They are part of it. And this is the coverage of the media that we're saying that, are putting some kind of rose-colored glasses on this destruction and not thinking of LA at all, not thinking of California at all, not thinking of the United States at all, not thinking of all the people getting hurt by this in so many different ways. They are part of it. The media are part of the crime. So thank you so much. God bless.